When we bought Magic Hawk in 2006, we knew from the survey she was a good solid boat. However, we could also see that at some stage she would need some serious internal refurbishment. Quite early in our ownership, we had to start in the heads compartment, as this was definitely the worst area on the boat. The Westerly Seahawk has a moulding up to about waist height, but above that it is white veneer which was badly damaged. Therefore I had to re-veneer the bulkheads, replace all the headlining and pipework, and also veneer onto ply to make a new ceiling board and fit a deck hatch, as there was no ventilation at all. Some of the woodwork was in poor condition also, which was made worse by the fact that a previous owner had varnished the wood using a varnish containing a stain, so it looked really bad. Therefore the only solution was to use a chemical varnish stripper to take it back down to bare wood. After this I applied many coats of clear varnish and the results were much better. All of the woodwork in the heads was also stripped down to bare wood and revarnished before refitting, and there was also a repair needed to the door which had a small chunk missing from it, but I think I repaired it okay. During the spring of 2016 we started the refurbishment of the aft cabin by removing all of the old headlining and the tremendous amount of black foam dust that it created. Prior to this we also tackled the forepeak and got rid of the old headlining in there, which again was in a very poor state. By spring 2017 we were in full refit mode and had stripped out the saloon as well. It was incredibly messy work and it was very important to wear the proper personal protection equipment. Just finished taking the last window out of the saloon, which is on the forward part here. All the rest are out now and covered up with visqueen. And all the surfaces have been scrubbed with a wire brush and washed with a scrubbing brush and sieve and rinsed with water. So everything's looking pretty clean and ready for the new headlining to go in. After all the mess from the headlining was cleared away, we set about rubbing down and revarnishing all of the woodwork in the saloon. It all received at least 2 coats of clear varnish before we started to reapply new headlining. Similarly, in the aft cabin the woodwork was also rubbed down and revarnished, and as part of the project I glued wooden stringers to the inside of the hull and used foam back vinyl to insulate between the stringers, which were used to screw on wooden slats. It's Saturday 20th of May. All the slat work's finished now. The mattresses are back in. Got the headlining around the window and headlining's back along the starboard side. Having the plywood headlining boards removed from the inside of the saloon, it was the ideal opportunity to replace the old original jammers with new clutches. I could see that the new bolt holes for the clutches were in different positions to those of the jammers, so I used 9mm dowel to seal the old holes, just using wood glue to bond them into place. but I did leave a 1 centimetre depression below the surface of the GRP in the cockpit, and I used GRP filler to fill in the gap. After rubbing this down and fairing it off nicely, I drilled the new holes through and bolted through the new clutches. We had known for some time that we had had water leaks coming into the boat, probably from the bolts holding down the cockpit moulding, so this was the ideal opportunity to sort this out too.
See what 32 years of mess looks like underneath the cockpit moulding.
There were actually 32 nuts and bolts that were holding the moulding down, which took quite some time to remove. However, to my surprise, it popped up from the deck quite easily because the bedding compound had gone very hard and just wasn't doing its job anymore. So we cleaned up underneath the moulding and removed all the old bedding compound from around the edge of it, and then another job was to reseal the air vents, which again were letting in water. Once that was done, we laid down the moulding again and suspended it on 4 wooden blocks while I ran the bead of Sikaflex underneath it. We then simply removed the blocks, it sat down onto the Sikaflex, and we replaced the 32 nuts and bolts. Inside the boat we could then start replacing the headlining boards, the first one going in front of the compression post. In order to remove the last of the mess caused by headlining dust from the boat, we decided to finish stripping out the forepeak cabin, and at the same time we rubbed down all of the woodwork ready for varnishing. Here Julie is finishing off some of the tight corners by hand. Once the cabin was tidy again and we had removed the windows, we applied the new headlining around the fiberglass moulding, which compared with what was there before looked absolutely superb to our eyes. As we removed the windows from any part of the boat during the project, we sent them away to Sea Clear Windows in Kent, who did the refurbishment using toughened glass for us. We also replaced the headlining within the hanging locker, but I also performed a modification to the shelf which was originally fixed. I unscrewed it and hinged it so it can be flipped up and used as a full wet locker. So I took the vinyl right down to the bottom and will use an absorbent sponge in the bottom to mop up any water. Once the varnishing was completed, and I'm not sure it shows up too well on the video, but it did look absolutely superb. Another project on our list was to replace the old manual windlass with an electric one. Therefore we bought a Loughran's Cobra windlass and fitted it into the anchor locker on the shelf.
Okay, this is the test of the Loughran's windlass and the remote control. So when I press the up button, train comes up. When I press the down button, nothing happens at all. However, at the back of the socket, if I short those two out, it comes up. If I go the other way, it does go down. So there's nothing wrong with the windlass or the controller, it's the remote control which won't work.
It was actually my error, as I had 2 wires connected the wrong way round. The upholstery on Magic Hawk was very worn and grubby and was out of shape, so we asked a local sailmaker who also did upholstery to make new upholstery for the saloon and for the aft cabin. We chose a darker colour and we thought that the results were really good and looked quite contemporary. We even reconfigured the seating slightly so it makes it easier to get into the locker next to the wash hand basin, which we use quite regularly. By the beginning of August we had developed yard fever, so we decided to relaunch Magic Hawk and continue the refit in the autumn.